Okay, this is the beginning of my was going to change the thermostat project on this 1996 Pontiac Sunfire. Thought I had figured out it was overheating a little bit. Thermostat was stuck. Well, I'm just going to do a little test, and I drove it out again about half a mile and back, and all of a sudden she started leaking. Well, thermostat ain't going to leak. It definitely was not circulating. The radiator was cool. Engine was hot, and the upper radiator hose here was pretty warm. And I was thinking I blew a head gasket. I'm hoping not. It seems to be seeping from behind the water pump, which is too low to be a head gasket. And I looked on YouTube about all the diagnostics, and there ain't not one of you sons of bitches that ever recorded anything about how to change a thermostat in one of these. And I thought it was under here, and I even went to Advanced Auto, and the guy showed me a picture of this here thermostat housing and said it's under there. Well, when I got here, it says right, stamped right on it, thermostat at Watterpump. So Carl ought to get his ass kicked. Done lied to me again. Carl's a good guy. Anyway, thermostat's down there where no human being should ever put a thermostat. Whoever designed that ought to get their ass kicked. Because them some bitches is rusted in there. It's probably going to take a torch and a half stick of dynamite to get them bolts loose. And then I'm going to do that after I change the damn water pump, because there's something seeping back there. Anyway, I was going to post some of this on YouTube because I looked for 2 days off and on trying to find somebody that did something like this, and you're changing everything, Sunfire from spark plugs to, but nobody did a thermostat or water pump, so this is my attempt. Maybe I can help somebody else, some other poor bastard that can't afford a mechanic like me. Alright, discovering, I suggesting you guys pull off the alternator for sure. Somebody, whoever designed this, got this air conditioner hose crapping away. Anybody who designed something like this, and this is old stuff, the dumbass who designed this never intended anybody to ever fix anything. Whoever that bastard is, I'd like to meet him. I think there's a lot of other mechanics out there who will say that, but anyway, I'm suggesting take off your damn alternator, pull all your hoses off, get that puke. Okay, kind of looks like, I'm pretty sure now I got a leaky water pump gasket. Now that's really odd. That sure beats the hell out of a head gasket, but in case any of you people out there are trying to figure out where that bitch is leaking, the water pump wasn't even as tight as it should be, so whoever the other incompetent bastard was who changed this water pump, I can see it's not the factory gasket. But some moron changed this water pump and didn't tighten it down real tight, and I think she was leaking out of the bottom of the gasket because it wasn't tight. But I'm pretty sure the thermostat was sticking because it wasn't leaking. Radiator was hot, was cold, engine was hot. The lower radiator here, hose here, coming from the thermostat was cold. The upper radiator one was hot, and I had stuck thermostat. And just before I got home, it started leaking, but I think it built up enough pressure that it blew the gasket out of the water pump because it wasn't tight in the first place, which is still $500 better than a damn head gasket for something that's this old. I'm really hoping that this is what it is. And it makes sense if a person's going to go through all the work and pulling that water pump off, you might as well throw a new one on for $30-40 because she's got a little play in it. By the time you take it off, put it on, get all the air. I heard these are really a pain, these 2.2s, to get the air out of the system. I've seen people that cut this bleeder right out and splice a piece of rubber hose, heater hose in between there, and put one of them drain and fill caps in there. Probably a lot faster to bleed it than this stupid little foreign bleeder screw that's about, what would that be? A little screw head is probably maybe 1/8 of an inch on the bottom, and I think this point here is higher than there, so it's still going to get an air bubble here. That might be an option when I get to that point. Anyway, that's how it is. Blew the gasket out of the water pump because it wasn't tight in the first place, which is still $500 better than a damn head gasket for something that's this old. I'm really hoping that this is what it is. I don't know how well you can see this here, but that is, I can see where that'd be one deceiving thing here, because the water pump could be leaking. Maybe it wasn't the gasket. It could be seeping out of the seep hole. I didn't know for sure if this had a seep hole on top and bottom. There's a seep hole. Oh yeah, hey, there we go. I believe that water pump was seeping, because there is a weep line. I mean, that looks like she had some major drippage, like dripping syphilis. Anyway, I believe that might be what the problem is that damn thing was leaking, and when they leak, they'll get an air pocket in that chamber where it starts to circulate, and if there's air in there, it's not going to push through there and circulate properly, so it might not have enough pressure to push past that thermostat. But I'm thinking, as long as I already bought a thermostat and I got it tore apart, I should take that damn thing out of there, and I'm going to have to get a torch and heat up them two little bolts, as I think they're going to break off, and then I'll just have to lay under there with dirt falling on my head talking to Jesus. So that isn't going to be good. Now just water, I was amazed that that much coolant could leak out through that weep hole. I was pouring it in the reserve tank, or what do you call it, the tank, because they don't put a damn radiator cap on your radiators anymore. And what amazed me is when I poured it in, it ran down into through the radiator hose and would run out of that weep hole at the water pump like 15 seconds after I poured some coolant in there. And I was thinking, well, I've seen a lot of leaky water pumps, but I've never really seen one leak so bad. And I'm probably wrong. You know, there's some other chief mechanics out there probably, oh yeah, that's pretty common, but you wouldn't think it would run out as fast as you pour it in through the water pump weep hole. The seal in the water pump must be bad, but that's what it did. It's man, I was thinking cracked block, blown head gasket, leaky frost plug. Got the old thermostat in and out. I should have recorded the thermostat a little better putting it in, but I heated it, you know. Got the thermostat back in there, them 2 bolts, it's going okay. Alright, installing the alternator back in position. All in all, I've given you a pretty poor description on how to do this, but the thermostat thing was the thing I was going to talk about, and everything kind of went to crap. But I did go and purchase some new bolts for the thermostat housing, because those little metric bolts, I believe they're, geez, I think a 20 thread per inch. I'm not sure the size quite anymore, but I put new bolts in there because some other ones came out kind of with some aluminum on them and not good. They only cost me like $3 for 4 bolts, because they all sell you more than you need. But that went together all right. It's not as bad or as intimidating as you think it would be. And like I said, I did a search on YouTube for somebody that did this. I didn't find anybody, and I'm sorry that I didn't give many details about putting it back in, but it wasn't half bad. But hopefully this will be successful. Okay, here she is all put together. Day 2, 1996 Pontiac 2.2 Thermostat and water pump replacement project. I almost replaced this hose that goes to that housing on the water pump, but because it goes to the lower radiator hose, and it's got this other snorkel that goes to the tank, which usually that's a reserve tank. And in these years, I guess, and they still do that on the new stuff now, they don't put a cap on the radiator because, I don't know, China told them not to. I actually got the bleeder screw out. You're supposed to bleed it through that little pipe there that usually, people told me that usually twists off, and it actually came out, and then it fell out on top of the starter and stuck between the starter and the oil pan, and that was just good fun. I got me a butter knife and got that fished out of there. Just enough room so it falls behind the starter and doesn't slide through. So if your little bleeder doesn't break off, you'll drop it down there and lose it. Another great automotive tip. Anyway, I'm about ready to put some antifreeze in there. I back flushed it. It's actually got one of them genuine back flush kits, so somebody must have actually throughout the life of this vehicle put that on there and black flushed it, so it's probably been cleaned. Otherwise, it was a 15-year-old vehicle. There's probably a lot of them out there that still have the original antifreeze in them. That's why they overheat to start with. But anyway, I'm going to start dumping some antifreeze in here and see what we got. Well, here she is, the finished project. I should have videoed bleeding it, but it was pretty simple. You know, bleeding out the air out of the coolant system. I did have the front end up in the air a little bit, and this little screwgy jobby here that a lot of people say they twist off worked pretty good, because this tank is actually higher than this. To bleed it first to standing still, I took an air compressor hose and put it on low air and stuffed a rag around here and put some pressure in there until it blew out through here and worked really well. And this little screw job is higher than the heater core. It actually worked real well. I've seen on different YouTube video and different people say that these are really a pain to get to circulate because they get an air bubble in this line. But this one worked really well, and if somebody like me can do it, I sure think anybody else can. It was a successful mission. Everything seems to work. It circulates. Like I said, I should have videoed bleeding it out, but it wasn't a bad process. I just knowing that information I would have liked when I looked on YouTube, and I don't believe anybody ever did that, because I searched for thermostat replacement, and it wasn't bad. I had to heat these a little bit to get the bolts out, and I went to the local car distributor, the parts distributor, found some metric bolts that fit in there. Not quite the original equipment stuff. We could have went to a dealership, they said, if I wanted something identical original, but these worked. They were in there so tight, a little bit of aluminum came off. I believe that's an aluminum casting. A little bit of aluminum was in the threads, and I seen them. I'm not putting that stuff back in there. But anyway, I just took it down the road about 4 miles there and back. Did a little road trip, but she was a successful mission.